You walked into your garden this morning, and something was missing. Not a plant. Not a flower. A sound. That low, heavy hum that used to fill your May evenings. The one you heard every spring growing up. The one your children have never heard at all. And you never thought to ask why it stopped. Welcome to the Beetle Mystery. Today we are going to talk about 10 things that people do every single day in their gardens. Things that seem completely harmless. Things that feel like good gardening, that are quietly eliminating one of the most ancient and mysterious insects on Earth. I need to warn you. Number 7 is the one that stops people completely. Because it is not something you did on purpose. It is something you were told was the right thing to do. Stay with me all the way through. This is where the mystery gets personal. Number 1. You are treating your lawn with pesticides, and you do not realize what you are actually killing. This is where most people stop me. Because they were not trying to kill May beetles. They were trying to kill grubs. Here is the problem. The May beetle larva is a grub. It is the white C-shaped creature that lives in your soil for 3 to 4 years before it ever becomes the beetle you remember from childhood. When garden centers sell you grub control products, when lawn care companies treat your soil in spring and autumn, they are targeting exactly this creature. Neonicotinoid-based pesticides and soil treatments designed for grub control do not distinguish between pest grubs and May beetle larvae. They eliminate both with equal efficiency. And because the May beetle spends most of its life underground, by the time you notice the beetle is gone from your garden, the damage has already been done 3 years earlier. The soil you treated in 2022 is the reason you heard no beetles in 2025. The treatment is invisible. The result is delayed. And by the time you connect the two, an entire generation has been lost. If you have been using any product marketed as grub control in your garden, check the active ingredients before the next application. The beetle that filled your childhood evenings with sound may be depending on that decision. Number 2. You have removed every dead branch, and your garden is too clean. American and European gardening culture both share the same instinct. Tidy is good. Deadwood is ugly. Remove it, chip it, dispose of it, keep everything neat and alive looking. For the May beetle, this instinct is quietly catastrophic. Adult May beetles do not just fly randomly through the night. They navigate towards specific trees, specific branches, specific structures that match the profile of their emergence site. Old wood, rough bark, the kind of surface that holds warmth and provides grip, is where females land to rest before laying eggs in the soil below. Research on cockchafer habitat preferences consistently shows that gardens with old trees, rough bark, and some degree of dead or aging would support significantly higher beetle populations than manicured gardens with the same tree species, but no structural complexity. You do not need to let your garden become a forest. But that one dead branch you were planning to cut this weekend, leave it. It is not a sign of neglect. It is a landing strip. Number 3. Your garden lights are on all night, and you do not know what that does to a beetle. This is one of the most documented and least discussed causes of May beetle decline in suburban Europe. The May beetle navigates by light. Specifically, it navigates by the gradient of natural light at dusk, reading the sky the way a sailor reads the horizon. When artificial lights flood a garden all night, they do not just attract beetles. They trap them. A May beetle caught in the light field of a strong garden lamp will circle that light for hours, sometimes until exhaustion, sometimes until dawn, when it becomes vulnerable to predators. It does not complete its mating flight. It does not find a mate. It does not lay eggs. It simply circles. Researchers studying light pollution and insect populations across Central Europe have found that neighborhoods with high levels of outdoor lighting at night show measurably lower May beetle emergence than comparable areas with lower light pollution. The beetles are there, underground, ready to emerge. But the light above ground is disrupting the navigation system they have relied on for millions of years. The fix is not darkness. It is timing. Motion-activated lights, lights on timers that turn off by midnight, or warm amber bulbs rather than cool white, all significantly reduce the disorienting effect on beetles and other nocturnal insects. Turn off the garden light at midnight. It costs nothing, and it may bring back something you thought was gone. Number 4. You are mowing too early in spring and destroying emergent sites. The May beetle does not emerge from random soil. It emerges from specific locations, the same patches of ground where the previous generation laid eggs, the same root systems where it has been feeding for years, the same soil structure it has been slowly shaping around itself. When that soil is compacted by mowing equipment in early spring, before the soil has fully warmed and before emergence has begun, beetles that are preparing to surface can be crushed, blocked, or disoriented before they ever reach the air. Entomologists studying May beetle emergence timing have documented that emergence begins when soil temperature at a depth of approximately 20 centimeters reaches a consistent threshold. In most of Central Europe, this occurs in late April to early May. Mowing in the 2 weeks before this window, particularly after a cold spring, when emergence may be delayed, directly impacts the beetles preparing to surface. The solution is simple. Delay your first deep mow of the year by 2 weeks. Let the soil breathe. Let whatever is underneath have the chance to come up. What you will lose is 2 weeks of perfect lawn. What you may gain back is something you cannot buy at any garden center. Number 5. You have paved over more of your garden than you realize. This one is uncomfortable because it is cumulative. It happens slowly, over years, over decades, across your street and your neighborhood and your entire region simultaneously, and nobody announced it as a problem because each individual decision seemed completely reasonable. A new driveway, a patio extension, a gravel path, artificial turf because it is easier, decking because it looks clean. Each one of these decisions removes a patch of soil. And the May beetle needs soil. Not just any soil, old soil, undisturbed soil, soil with the right root systems, and the right depth, and the right history. A larva that hatches in a patch of earth that gets paved over in year 2 of its 4-year development does not survive. Soil surveys conducted across suburban areas of Germany, Austria, and Poland have shown that the percentage of permeable ground surface in residential gardens has declined by between 30 and 50% since the 1970s. This is the same period during which May beetle populations began their most significant decline. You cannot unpave your driveway. But if you have any area of your garden that is currently covered with something other than soil or living plants, consider what is underneath it. Consider what might have been living there for 3 years already, waiting for a spring that is never going to come because the surface above it is now concrete. Number 6. You are planting the wrong trees, and the beetle cannot find what it needs. The May beetle is not a generalist. It does not feed on everything. The larva has strong preferences for the root systems of specific trees, oak above all, followed by fruit trees, particularly apple and cherry, and certain grasses associated with traditional meadow ecosystems. The adult beetle feeds on the fresh leaves of the same species. When you see a May beetle in an oak tree in early May, it is not there by accident. It has navigated to that specific tree because something in its biology recognizes it as the right place. Modern garden planting trends have shifted dramatically toward ornamental species, fast-growing non-native trees, low-maintenance shrubs from other continents. These plants are not useless. But for the May beetle they are invisible. A garden full of ornamental Japanese maples and non-native conifers is, from the perspective of a May beetle navigating by chemical signal in the dark, an empty landscape. If you have space for one native tree, plant an oak. If you have an old apple tree that you are considering removing because it is messy and the fruit is small and nobody eats it, keep it. That tree is not just a tree. It is infrastructure. Number 7. You were told the grubs in your soil were pests, and you believed it. I told you this one would stop you. And I want to be careful here, because I am not saying the information you received was given in bad faith. I am saying it was incomplete. Garden centers, lawn care companies, and most mainstream gardening advice treat soil grubs as a single category of problem. Grubs eat roots. Grubs damage lawns. Eliminate grubs. This is the message, and it is delivered with confidence and with products designed to act on it immediately. What this framing omits is that not all grubs are the same. The white C-shaped larva of the May beetle is visually nearly identical to the larvae of several genuinely destructive species. Without specific identification, which requires knowledge most gardeners have never been given, the May beetle larva is routinely eliminated alongside the species it is being confused with. Entomologists who study cockchafer populations have noted that the widespread adoption of consumer grub control products in the 1980s and 1990s correlates directly with the population declines documented in the same period. The timing is not coincidental. Before you treat your soil for grubs this year, look at what you have. A May beetle larva is large, often 3 to 4 centimeters long, cream white, with a distinctive reddish-brown head and strong legs. It is not a pest. It is a tenant. It has been paying rent in your soil ecosystem for years before you ever noticed it. Number 8. Your garden has no edge habitat, and the beetle has nowhere to transition. This one requires a small shift in how you think about your garden structure. May beetles do not live entirely in open lawn or entirely in dense forest. They live in the transition zone between the two, the area where mown grass meets rough vegetation, where cultivated garden meets hedgerow, where human management ends and something wilder begins. This edge habitat is where females lay eggs. It is where emerging adults first land after their underground years. It is where the specific mix of soil, root systems, and plant cover that the beetle requires actually exists. Suburban gardens that have been designed as uniform spaces, all lawn or all patio or all cultivated beds with sharp edges and no transitions, have eliminated this zone entirely. There is nowhere for the beetle to be between the underground and the sky. The simplest thing you can do is create one rough edge in your garden. One strip along a fence or wall where you stop mowing, where native plants are allowed to grow without management, where leaves accumulate and the soil stays undisturbed. It does not need to be large. Half a meter wide along one fence is enough to create the transition zone that May beetles have been navigating toward for 10,000 years. Number 9. You have no patience for the timeline, and you give up too soon. This is the hardest one to hear because it is about time in a way that most gardening advice never addresses honestly. The May beetle operates on a 4-year cycle. If you make every change on this list today, you will not see results this May. You may not see them next May. The beetles that emerge in your garden in 4 years are the larvae that hatch from eggs laid this year, in the soil you are preparing right now, under the trees you are deciding whether to keep. Most people who try to restore wildlife to their gardens expect results within a season. When the results do not come, they conclude that what they did not work, and they stop. But the May beetle does not work on a human attention span. It works on a geological patience. The farmers who knew this, the old gardeners across Central and Eastern Europe, who understood the beetle cycle the way they understood the rhythm of the seasons, they did not plant for themselves. They planted for the spring their grandchildren would inherit. If you make your garden safe for May beetle larvae this year, you are making a promise to a creature that will not collect on it for 4 years. That kind of gardening requires a different relationship with time than most of us have been taught to have. But it is the only kind that works. Number 10. You stopped going outside at dusk, and the beetle lost its witness. I saved this one for last because it is not about soil or light or pesticides or trees. It is about something quieter than all of those things. The May beetle has been emerging into human gardens for as long as humans have had gardens. For most of that history, people were outside at dusk. Not because they were watching for beetles, but because the evening was when work stopped and the day released you, and you sat outside because that was what you did. Children caught May beetles in their hands. Grandmothers noticed when they arrived each year. Families marked the first beetle of spring the way they marked the first swallow or the first frost. The beetle was witnessed. Its arrival was registered by human attention, human memory, human conversation. That witnessing mattered more than we knew. Not to the beetle, which does not need your attention to survive, but to us. Because the things we pay attention to are the things we protect. And the things we stop noticing are the things we lose without ever making a decision to lose them. The May beetle population has declined by over 60% since the mid-20th century. That decline happened during the same decades when people moved indoors at dusk, when screens replaced porches, when the evening hum of a garden became something you might hear through a window if you happened to be near one. Go outside this May at dusk. Not with your phone. Not with a task. Just go outside and stand in your garden as the light changes, and listen for a sound that is low and heavy and unlike anything else in the natural world. If you hear it, you will know what we have been talking about this entire video. And if you do not hear it, you will understand, in a way that no list of statistics can convey, exactly what has been lost. Tell me in the comments, when was the last time you heard a May beetle in your garden? Was it last spring? Or was it years ago? Or are you not sure you have ever heard one at all? Tell me. Every answer matters, because the map of where this beetle still exists is being drawn right now, one garden at a time. If this video made you think differently about what is living underneath your lawn, share it with one person who has a garden. Not for the channel. For the beetle. It has been underground for 4 years waiting for someone to notice it is there. I will see you in the next mystery. The beetle mystery.